Tony, you might like to just do a little.
And of course, if they munch it up, it goes into the.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They are aged from just 4 right up to 16 and come from as far afield as Melbourne every year for the Narrabri camp. And this time, neither drought nor recession has caused the numbers to dwindle.
Well, we keep our fees down to enable every child to come along. It's, for a week here, we feed the horses 3 times a day, we feed the children 3 times a day, and you know, we instruct them with riding during the day and entertain them at night. And we do that for the first child for $50 and the second child for $40, and out of that $13 goes to Sydney for affiliation.
At times, it looks like a combination of loads of fun and the charge of the Light Brigade, and with good reason.
The Pony Club movement is based initially on the light horse procedures, and the light horsemen in those days started the Pony Club movement. And a lot of that's still carried through now. We have our troop drills and things, and we try and run a little bit like a military operation.
But according to organiser Brian Jones, who himself needs a holiday at the end of it all, there are never any complaints.
They love every minute of it, and they queue up to come back next year, yes.
A little man with a heart the size of Philap, and without doubt, one of the most popular players the Knights have ever had. Far from upset about not playing first grade this year and the prospect of leaving the Knights, Bullet looks back with a lot of self-satisfaction.
I'd say 1990 stands out alone for me because I won Player of the Year and run 3rd in the Rothmans medal. We ended up having a playoff for 5th spot, so I'd say 1990 was a big year for me.
And for Cessnock, a real coup, with Fulmer sure to be a giant draw cut as well as trying to arrest a couple of losing years for the Goannas.
We're very happy to have Steve there. He's very experienced. He's played 70 games with the Knights, first grade, and his coaching ideas are very sound, and we think we'll do well next year.
As you would expect of the kid from Canamble, it's a challenge he's looking forward to.
Yeah, it is a challenge, and I like challenges. When I come to the Knights, you know, I didn't expect to play first grade the first year, and a big challenge was set to me, and I ended up playing first grade. So I see it much the same, you know, coming from behind, and like you said, there's a lot of young talent out there, and I think I can do a little bit with them, show them the right way, and point them in the right direction in a semi-final berth next year.
Fulmer will undergo a knee reconstruction before taking up his 1-year appointment at Cessnock.
Things have not been sweet on Narrabri Council for some years now. The 12 councillors split 7-5 and seemingly unable to see eye to eye on anything. The saga has included the suspension of 4 senior council officers, which led to an ombudsman's inquiry and one also by the local government department. As well, the issue goes to arbitration in the second half of this month.
I believe we have a job to do and we're doing it. I think that's the way the council is reacting to both the Ombudsman's report and the 212 local government report.
This week's blow-up saw Councillor Ross Panton ejected from the meeting by the Shire President.
Under the ordinance, if a councillor does not sit down when the President stands, you have to ask that councillor to leave the room.
I thought he was rising to his feet to really censure the other councillor and not me.
I believe that he will have to apologise to the chair for breaking the ordinance.
if I have to apologise, well, I certainly will apologise. But I do believe that fair play, and I do believe that that senior member of the Narrabri Shire Council who says that he does know a little bit about local government should come forward and apologise also.
Also this week saw the resignation of the acting Shire Clerk, Yolanda Brooks, who will become manager of Whitsunday Shire Council based at Proserpine in Queensland. Although at the administrative helm of the council through the last turbulent 18 months, Mrs Brooks denies the problems led to her resignation.
I'm very, very sorry that she is leaving, because we are losing a very, very good staff member.
Another acting Shire Clerk is expected to be appointed temporarily, but a manager is to be installed once the arbitration hearing has dealt with the suspensions.
The 15 delegates on Shortland Electricity's Governing Council gathered today to discuss the outcome of this week's meeting between representatives from Shortland and the Minister for Energy, Gary West. According to Chairman Dennis Nichols, the meeting related to state government moves to make electricity distributors like Shortland as business-like as possible, eventually corporatising them. The idea arising from a recent inquiry into the operations of Shortland's Sydney counterpart, Prospect County Council. The inquiry found that Prospect wasn't functioning efficiently, its elected aldermen having insufficient skills to run a business. As a result, they were sacked and replaced with ministerial appointees. According to Mr Nichols, the message isn't that drastic, at least in the short term, but there's moves for the current council to be reduced to 9 members.
It's a make-up of 7 elected representatives and 2 appointed from the local business community.
Mr Nichols claims the minister isn't pressuring Shortland to become a statutory authority and reduce its council numbers. The feelings of the 15 delegates towards the minister's demands will be gauged at a special meeting scheduled for later this month. But despite the outcome, the change, it seems, is inevitable.
The government is the government of the day, and they will, at the end of the day, make the government's decision. Board.
Narrabri's busy shopping centre was made even busier today with the special appearance of Brett Burt Kenny. Combining work commitments for berry juices with promotional appearances, the Parramatta International autographed everything from coasters to posters and even jumped behind a checkout to another lifelong dream. Visiting Moree, Weewaw and Narrabri in the last couple of days, Brett has been surprised at the amount of support people in the north have for the Eels.
It has been a disappointing couple of seasons, but it's good to know that the people out here are still behind you 100%.
Brett has recently agreed to stay with Parramatta for another couple of years, turning down an offer from Balmain.
And as far as I was concerned, Parramatta was the best deal for me.
And as for Parramatta's future?
I do feel it's going to be very tough. Obviously, injuries do play a part, but you know, if they don't get too many bad injuries, I think they're going to be very strong again.
It's scenes like this the United Nations scheme called UNCLE aims to change. The brainchild of an Australian, the plan is for a developed city to adopt a third world town or village and guide it towards sustainable growth. The United Nations has selected Newcastle as the first developed city worldwide to act as an UNCLE. Our likely recipient, a town in Laos devastated during Vietnam. According to one of the main proponents of the scheme, the project will differ from conventional forms of welfare.
When we give countries money, it gives them a feed or it gives them some sort of medical thing, and instead of dying this week, they die next week. The only way that they can work is make the countries self-sufficient.
The idea is for individual institutions in Newcastle like council, the water authority or schools to adopt their counterparts in a third world town and provide them with skills and expertise, or in the case of schools, vital utensils like pens and paper.
They'd also look after the kids and whatever that school wanted. Well, our schools would more or less give them, whether it's second-hand stuff or things like that. Over there, to buy a book is impossible.
Newcastle City Council will consider the scheme this month. If it gets the green light, Alderman Rigby believes Newcastle will adopt the Laos town within the next 6 months. If the Newcastle pilot works, the aim is to spread the scheme worldwide. At 52 years of age, Ken Doan is one of Australia's most famous and richest artists. But unlike many, Ken didn't get into the game until 12 years ago, with a small exhibition in Sydney. From there, things snowballed. As to what is the common theme that enables his works to cross cultures and gain popularity overseas?
Maybe it's because most of the paintings seek to show you something of how nice it is to be alive, whether it's, say, underneath the barrier reef or whether it's on the beach.
Ken says much of his inspiration is gained from his home located on Sydney Harbour, but his younger years spent growing up on the state's mid-north coast left a large impression. And despite his international acclaim, remaining homegrown is paramount.
The clothes that we do here in Australia, like the swimsuits or the things that Judy will be designing for this summer, next summer they'll be in New York. So we treat New York or Paris or Milan as the season after Australia.
Ken Doan's most recent works can be seen at the Cooks Hill Galleries in Newcastle until the end of the month.
To many women, the ideal environment for delivering their child is not the hospital, but their own home. But the author of a survey into home births in Australia has told a seminar at the University of Newcastle that this method comes with risks.
The rate of deaths for babies who were of normal size and didn't have any abnormalities was somewhat higher for home births than it was for hospital births in Australia.
Hilda Bastian says the number of babies dying during home births has increased from 5.9 per thousand in the 1985-87 survey to 6.4 in the 1988-90 study. And she believes that national figure is being pushed up by the New South Wales and Western Australian figures. Ms Bastian told the seminar that the death rate for babies during home births in New South Wales and Western Australia is 8.7 per thousand. That compares with 3 per thousand for the rest of the country. She says the figures may not be telling the full story because some home birth midwives have refused to participate in the survey.
10% of practitioners did not participate in our survey, and our survey also showed that there is some underreporting at state health departments of home births and perinatal deaths.
In which case, could the 6.4 per thousand be in fact higher than what it is?
Yes, it may well be higher, but we have no idea how high it might be.
Scott Bevan, NBN News. Every 2 years, the past meets the present at the Royal Newcastle Aero Club near Maitland. This morning, 28 tiger moths, some 60 years old, converged on the airfield, bringing to life a piece of aviation history. These biplanes are competing in the Great Tiger Moth Air Race as part of this weekend's Gathering of the Eagles air show. The first leg was to Port Macquarie and back. Tomorrow, the sky from Maitland to Camden will be dotted with the droning craft.
Looks like it's going to be a great success. We've got the same amount of tiger moths, and they're all very, very keen. In fact, we've got about 6 new crews that have never competed before.
While the pilots enjoyed the competition, there's a far greater attraction that draws them skyward.
I love flying. I've flown in every race, 9 races, and it's just something, once it's in your blood, never leaves you. True flying, wind in the wires.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
It was business as usual with Sunday services for the Dean of Newcastle, the Very Reverend Graham Lawrence, who now carries the added responsibility of managing the diocese. This after the failure of a 300-strong church synod to come to a consensus over the final 2 of 11 nominees standing for the church's top job.
We were very close indeed to electing a man yesterday, but the election failed in the House of Clergy.
What is required for the election of a bishop?
There needs to be a 2/3 majority, that's 66% of all the members present and voting in the House of Laity and in the House of Clergy.
Another synod will be called for December when the process of electing a new bishop will start from scratch.
It's difficult to get a very large number of people to think the same way and to feel the same way about one particular candidate.
The synod did achieve an overwhelming vote of support for the ordination of women priests in the diocese. The recommendation will be considered by a national synod next month, which could clear the way for dioceses to implement their own ordinations. A welcome banner went out for what's come to be known as the Gathering of Eagles. Vintage aircraft, especially the old warbirds such as this Harvard trainer with rattling radial engine, are the show stealers. After winging over the Hunter, North Coast and Hawkesbury, about 30 entrants in the Great Tiger Moth Air Race floated gracefully back to Earth. A shower of rain brought out a flock of brollies, while a Defiant Pitts Special pierced the gloom. A famous Spitfire shot through threatening skies. American nostalgia flew by in formation. Rain settled in, accompanied by the thunder of a big twin-engined Dakota and Lockheed Lodestar. The wet weather pulled the plug on a youth rock concert planned for the foreshore, sending many for the shelter of undercover attractions. Civic Park became the hub of festivities with its traditional Matara activities. The art show drawing its share of lookers, kiddie rides always a winner. Organisers are keeping their fingers crossed for clear skies this evening. A fireworks display should boom over the harbour, weather permitting, at 6:30. It'll be followed by blues music under a marquee at Queen's Wharf. The festival kicks off again at about 10 tomorrow morning in Civic Park with a sports health and country market day. It was front and centre for a festival of fitness in Civic Park. The Newcastle and Lake Macquarie Skateboard Association rolled into the show with ramp demonstrations. Then took a bow for their annual trophy presentations by Lord Mayor John McNaughton. Pint-sized hands and feet cut the air in a martial arts demonstration. Others tumbled head over heels for the fun of the fair. A pair of the Falcons' Feathers cheer squad members rustled up a storm. Offstage, players held an impromptu recruitment drive. Judges were busy exercising practice-dised over entries in this year's Arts and Crafts extravaganza. Works will be on show from tomorrow in City Hall.
A 23-year-old man and a 17-year-old man were arrested last week. Both were charged with obtaining benefit by deception from the Westpac Bank. The charges involve the alleged overdrafting of accounts using side-by-side automatic teller machines. Police have been following the case for more than 2 months. It's alleged the offences occurred at the Wyoming and Gosford branches. Detective Mick Gallagher says another 10 cases on the Central Coast are being investigated, and there's a danger this type of crime could spread.
I'd say there's a good chance. It's predominantly a street crime.
and the grapevine works very effective at that level of crime in our society, and I think it's only a matter of time before areas like King's Cross hear about it and it'll spread like wildfire.
The two men have been bailed to appear in Gosford Court. Matthew White, NBN News.
Word is out that that's going into residential because that mob, you name it, and if all these developments are going to take place on the heritage.
Just a couple of points as in Australia to become mechanised, and there were.
We at the moment have 3 AI mining site is in fact identified as a site for residential. The concept of developing the estate in terms of my breed to a Aboriginal land claim is in this portion. The size of the allotments that have fixed in concrete in any way at all, but it's one that we use to discuss the
Look, my servant, I do my keep fast him and birth of the promised seed. Jehovah caused ages.
They're working very hard.
Yeah, had a charming lecture him about you today. Everyone must go and...
I think he was having a bag and saying, well, not coming back.
Mankind. Or, as the New English Bible puts it, a veil that shrouds all peoples.
The Shooters Party is hoping to make plenty of noise tonight. It has its sights set on the Firearm Act, introduced in May in the fallout from the Strathfield massacre. Shooters say the laws are unreasonable.
The excessive gun laws do affect the ordinary type person, average family people and sporting shooters in general.
After holding a couple of preliminary meetings, the party is out to trigger more support right across the community.
Every walks of life, from academics right through to ordinary blue-collar type people, including myself, like ordinary family man, four children, got everything to live for as far as firearms go. We get a lot of recreational enjoyment out of it.
And the shooters' ultimate aim, a seat in Parliament.
I'm quite confident that the amount of shooters in New South Wales, we certainly will get someone in the upper house in the federal election.
Matthew White, NBN News.
It was party time and the revellers were hell-bent on a good night. The players that had given their all for the fledgling club mingled with the crowd, graciously accepting the backslaps that go with being a star in the Winfield Cup. And it was the players who were honoured. Robbie O'Davis acknowledged for his first up efforts in the big time with the Encouragement Award. For long-standing captain Michael Hagan, a special moment being presented with the Coaches Award.
It's indeed a great honour and something I'll cherish for a long time.
But the biggest cheer was reserved for a little bloke who has had a magnificent year.
It's unbelievable. It's capped off a great year for me. You know, I've been moved from the backs to the forwards. They said it was because of my looks. Like, they reckon I couldn't get any worse, but they're wrong.
After the headaches clear this morning, the stark realisation for the players that training for 1993 begins in 20 days' time.
It's been 3.5 years since the Royal Commission inquiry into black deaths in custody, and police are now taking those findings directly to the Aboriginal communities. The Royal Commission, in its Aboriginal policy, outlines more than 300 recommendations, 80 involving police treatment of Aboriginal people.
Once we realise the way they're thinking and start to commence that communication process, and that's what it all comes down to, I mean, communicating with people, having them communicate with us.
The police say they want to improve their relations with the black community. This week, officers handed out questionnaires and held open discussions, giving Aboriginals the opportunity to put forward their views and ideas.
It's vital. We can't have the same things occurring day in and day out. It's got to change, and it's got to be a two-way street. It's not something that just the Aboriginal community can do or just the police can do. We've all got to work together on this to help further improve relations between Aboriginal people and police. And once that's done, we're hoping that'll have a domino effect onto the wider community as well.
The new police program will be taken across the state.
One, 6 and 7 are the numbers you needed, and the time 1:39.14. Seven to 1, 7 to 2 in favourite and 12 to 1. The 6 was the Caulfield Stakes, and in the bog, a sensational last to first finish. 11-1, 33-1 and 33-1. The unplaced favourite at 5-4, Mannerism. In Sydney at Rosehill, the 6 was the Tooheys Draught Handicap over 1900 metres. And have a look at the Quinella, 669.20, and the trifecta, a whopping 5,699.50.